Hello, and you are listening to Eco Justice Radio. We present environmental and climate stories from a social justice frame featuring voices not necessarily heard on mainstream media. Eco Justice Radio acknowledges that we recorded this show on the traditional territory of the Ahachiman people and all of their relatives in the place we call Orange County, California. Welcome. I'm Jack Ide. On today's show, Hurricane Melissa, Jamaica's unprecedented storm and its aftermath. We feature a roundup of the impact of the latest superstorm that recently has been tearing through the Caribbean and into the Atlantic. We feature two climate scientists, Michael Mann and Daniel Swain, juxtaposed with a documentarian on the ground in Jamaica, Jonathan Petramala. Dr. Michael Mann is Presidential Distinguished Professor in the Department of Earth and Environmental Science at the University of Penn, with a secondary appointment in the Annenberg School for Communication. Jonathan Petramala is an independent journalist and documentarian. With over 20 years of experience, he focuses on documenting major disaster events, bringing attention to the power and resilience of the human spirit. Dr. Daniel Swain is a climate scientist focused on the dynamics and impacts of extreme events, including droughts, floods, storms, and wildfires on a warming planet. Daniel holds joint appointments as a climate scientist within the California Institute for Water Resources within the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources, and as a research partner at the NSF National Center for Atmospheric Research. In this episode, we confront the devastating aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, the strongest storm in recorded history to strike Jamaica. We hear firsthand accounts from survivors who have faced terrifying winds and flooding, and we delve into the role of climate change in intensifying such storms. Join us as we explore the urgent need for aid and the resilience of the Jamaican people, as well as the Haitian people, as well as the Dominican people, as well as the Cuban people in the face of this catastrophe. We begin with an excerpt of Jonathan Petramala's report from Jamaica called Hurricane Melissa, The Fight to Reconnect Survivors.
The rarest storm in history. This is history for Jamaica.
You climbed up during the hurricane onto your roof to nail it down so it wouldn't blow away.
Yes, so it wouldn't blow away.
We have a problem. Even a day after landfall for Hurricane Melissa here in Jamaica, most of the world doesn't understand just how bad this hurricane was, because that part of the island where the hurricane made landfall is still inaccessible. We've been trying for over 12 hours to reach the coast, but this road is blocked. The only highway in and out, blocked by trees, blocked by power lines. The only real images that people have seen are from the eastern part of the island, where the winds weren't nearly as fierce and the rain didn't come down nearly as hard. What people have seen are fake AI videos and pictures. That's what's being shared on social media, because there is no ground truth over here. There's no electricity, there's no internet, there's no cell phone service, so people are making things up. And that's why we're here, to show you the reality. And what we've seen so far is as bad as we feared.
The worst hurricane for I born. Worst one. So it's kind of wettish.
Yeah.
Setting wet up on TV.
How high was the water inside?
It was high like this.
Okay.
So we have to hold.
So it came rushing.
Rush in, come in, damage everything inside here.
Yeah.
See?
And did it rush outside?
Rush outside. And then come through here so too, because we have to open the door.
Yeah.
And they come through. All the mattress here wet up.
How did you stand on your mattress?
No,
or what did you guys do?
What we do, take up the mattress, so and crack up.
Yeah.
You have to crack up, what we are going to do? We can't do nothing. Nothing at all we can do.
I mean, you had to be just absolutely...
And some of we sit down like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can survive.
So you can tell, I mean, these people don't have much, but what they did have, it's gone. Everything from their clothes, the electronics, even their Bible is wet and ruined.
That was The Fight to Reconnect Survivors from Hurricane Melissa from Jonathan Petramala. Now we go to climate scientist Michael Mann speaking with Chris Jansing from MSNBC on the impact of Hurricane Melissa.
Joining me now, Michael Mann, Presidential Distinguished Professor and Director of the Penn Center for Science, Sustainability, and Media, and author of the book, Science Under Siege. It's good to see you, Michael. A question I've been getting a lot. What role does climate change play in the severity of this storm?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's good to be with you. And it plays a profound role. One of these storms, these hurricanes, they are giant heat engines. And the amount of work that that engine can do, which is basically how strong those winds are, is a function of how warm the ocean surface is. We've warmed the ocean surface more than a degree, about a degree Celsius, closer to 2 degrees Fahrenheit, because of heat trapping, carbon emissions from fossil fuel burning, and that has led to stronger storms that do more damage, a roughly 10% increase in those maximum wind speeds, but a roughly 33% increase in the amount of damage that the storm can do, because that's actually proportional to the third power of the wind.
So this is the strongest storm to hit Jamaica in history, at least in recorded history. It comes on the heels of multiple storms that intensified at breakneck speed. Are we just sitting and waiting do we expect that things are just going to get even worse in the future?
Yeah, this is the second strongest storm on record in the Atlantic, the strongest storm this late in the season, and it's tied to these very warm sea surface temperatures, which are persisting over a wider and wider season because of the warming of the planet. And that will all continue to get worse as long as we continue to warm up the planet. So the only way we can prevent this from getting worse is to transition dramatically away from fossil fuels towards clean energy. You mentioned something else, the rate of intensification. This is another feature of these storms. We've seen so many of these very rapidly intensifying storms in recent years that balloon from a weak tropical storm to a major hurricane in under 24 hours. And we know that that sort of behavior is also influenced by very warm ocean temperatures. And the faster they intensify, the less time we have to figure out what to do when we find ourselves in harm's way.
Well, I want to talk about harm's way right now. I've covered quite a few storms in my life. I've never faced anything like 185-mile-per-hour winds. And you may have heard Jamaican officials say no infrastructure on the island is built to withstand a hurricane of Melissa's strength. Is that true for a lot of the world and certainly even parts of the U.S.?
Yeah, in fact, I and other leading climate scientists have actually argued that we need a new category, a category 6, for storms that have maximum sustained winds of more than 185 miles per hour, 186 miles per hour or greater, because if you extrapolate the so-called Saffir-Simpson scale, there should be a new category at that wind speed. And these storms are qualitatively more dangerous. As you said, a storm with wind speeds of that magnitude will level just about every structure in Jamaica. And that applies to much of the infrastructure that we have along the Gulf Coast and the East Coast of the U.S. as well.
Bill Gates, who just 4 years ago wrote a book about impending climate disaster and invested billions to avoid it, today said that climate change will not destroy humanity. And I want to play a little bit of what he told to CNBC.
Climate is a super important problem. There's enough innovation here to avoid super bad outcomes. We won't achieve our best goal, the 1.5 or even the 2 degrees. And as we go about trying to minimize that, we have to frame it in terms of overall human welfare, not just everything should be solely for climate.
Critics are already saying that he seems to be setting up an argument that climate change efforts hurt foreign aid for the poor, that it's an either-or proposition. Do you hear in what he says a reframing from someone who has been a force in the climate change field?
Yeah, it's very disappointing. And frankly, Bill Gates doesn't have any expertise in climate science. And he's failing to listen to what the experts actually have to say. And we're seeing it play out in real time right here. Disastrous climate change is not far off in the future. It's not 1.5 Celsius. It's not 2 Celsius, as he suggests. It's here. And the question is, how bad are we willing to let it get? And if we continue to warm the planet beyond that level of warming, we will exceed our adaptive capacity. And so when Bill Gates says we'll just sort of try to engineer our way out of it or innovate our way out of it, it's really tone deaf to the fact that there are a very large number of people who will suffer catastrophic consequences if we continue to allow the planet to warm up by continuing to burn fossil fuels. And I wish that Bill Gates would use the platform that he has to urge politicians and policymakers to help us transition away from dirty carbon energy towards clean energy as quickly as possible.
Michael Mann, always great to have you on the program. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Now back to Jonathan Petramala's report from Jamaica, post-Melissa.
How do you recover from nothing like this? With what resources? This is why it's so important for resources to get here as quickly as possible, help, aid from the outside. You know that they've worked so hard and scraped together everything they can just to have a home here, to have what they had before, and then it's just taken away like that. They definitely need help. Do you have drinking water or anything like that?
No, me no drinking water.
Okay.
Because I want drum with the drinking water on top and the breeze gone with it.
And so all the food, everything.
I no food, the food done. So as long as time I come, everybody food. And then says time I come, me look money done.
Yeah.
You know me. Yeah, right now we not here nothing. Not all we not have. Nothing. Water and food. You try to see them, but you can't see them over, you can't see them. Because if you see them,
And goat drowned.
see how one more there, look.
Another goat drowned. How important are these animals for you?
Oh, important.
These animals. This is how you eat, right?
Yeah, I see one more over there, so.
3. I see 3.
I see one more there, so.
4.
Now some gonna bush.
Yeah. The faster it gets open, the more help gets in quickly, and at least water, at the very least, right?
No power, no light.
Yeah, that's going to be a while. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
But water can come in,
Yeah.
food,
Yes, that's what we want here.
tin,
Yeah,
you know, for
food and so.
exactly. That can come in, yeah.
I might shop this.
This is where your shop
Yeah,
is.
this is my room tile.
Yeah.
It's gone. We are trying to put it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that,
And it, yes.
there he goes.
Yeah.
I like your artwork.
How do you laugh after that? After watching your world shredded by wind, water, the roof gone, the fields flooded, animals killed, the power out, somehow here they still do. That's Jamaica. The real story of Hurricane Melissa, though, starts miles away from Kingston in a place called Santa Cruz, where survival still comes with a smile.
It's just absolute chaos. So you have a front end loader trying to work. You got guys trying to like direct traffic here because you have 2 lanes of traffic. One coming into this parking lot down to try to get through. This is the only main highway to get through Santa Cruz here. And then this one front end loader trying to remove all of this gravel debris that was brought in. This road essentially was like a river coming in off the mountain. It's like a river, huh? What was the flooding like here?
Yeah?
What was the flooding like last night?
It was high enough, bad. So all these things wash, all these are debris, you know.
So just
all these are debris are packed up here.
all of it pushed in?
Yes, pushed in, yes.
And so it was from this gully right here, right?
Right, yes. Yeah, it passed under the road. But apparently it becomes too full. So it couldn't get the pass fast enough, so it break up the...
How? What was worse about this storm? Was it the rain or the wind?
Both, you know, because well, I am 72 years old, and this is the roughest time I've ever seen. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah, this one.
What made it the worst for you, 72 years old?
Because the wind, it had more wind. More wind, yes. I think Ivan had more rain, but this one was a lot of wind, stronger wind, yes.
Next we hear from Daniel Swain, climate scientist doing his office hours on the trajectory of Hurricane Melissa just as it was bearing down off the south coast of Jamaica.
We have one of the strongest Atlantic hurricanes ever recorded, imminently slated to make landfall in the western half of the island nation of Jamaica over the next 18 to 24 hours. It's a very serious situation for that country, and this will likely be the strongest landfalling hurricane ever to be observed on that particular island. And we'll talk about the dynamics of the storm, the geographic and societal context in which this extremely powerful and in some respects already record-breaking hurricane will be affecting multiple countries. It's already been affecting the Dominican Republic and Haiti for several days as it's moved very slowly across the Caribbean Sea amid near-record warm ocean temperatures. It's obviously going to have some devastating impacts in Jamaica, but then also in eastern Cuba, the Bahamas, and then potentially even Bermuda. So unfortunately, far from being what some folks might call a fish storm or hurricane that might be quite violent but stays out over open waters and thereby not really harming anyone, this is one of those hurricanes that, despite missing continental North America, is actually going to hit quite a few island nations either directly or indirectly and cause quite a bit of harm, unfortunately. But the worst impacts really do appear to be in Jamaica and then potentially as well in Haiti because of the extreme susceptibility to heavy rain, flooding, and landslides there. So the focus of today's conversation is going to be on Melissa, specifically the kind of event we're going to be talking about today, which is a near record or record strength tropical cyclone. A hurricane is a subset of a tropical cyclone, and the potential effects of a rising ceiling on hurricane intensity in a warming world, even if we aren't seeing more hurricanes overall, and how we incorporate that information into predictions and risk estimates that hopefully make us better prepared for what's coming. So just wanted to point out that this is precisely the kinds of conversations that we've been having in recent years, how to manage situations precisely like the one that's unfolding right now in the Caribbean, in Jamaica and other island nations in the Caribbean and in the Atlantic, later on elsewhere in the Atlantic as well. As I mentioned, Bahamas and Bermuda may be in the path of this as well. But what we do see, this is looking at essentially the temperature of the top of the uppermost cloud layer. Those are the coldest cloud tops. You see down the axis down here, colder than minus 80 degrees Celsius. That's extremely cold, which means, again, this is in the tropics. This is 17 degrees north. Here is the island of Jamaica right here. This is the Tiburon Peninsula in Haiti. This is eastern Cuba. And that is, this is just a little chunk of Central America that you can see. So we are right in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. The water temperature in this part of the ocean right now is 85 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Think about that for a minute. It's like bathtub water, nearly 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So we have a water temperature that would, if it were measured on this scale, be somewhere up here. In fact, that's kind of what we see where there's no clouds. You're kind of measuring the surface of the water temperature, and we do in fact see those colors up in the 20s and 30s centigrade. So we have bathtub warm water, but the top of the clouds here are minus 80 to minus 90 degrees Celsius. So think about that temperature differential from 20 or 25 degrees Celsius at the surface all the way to minus 80 degrees, minus 90 degrees Fahrenheit at the top of the clouds in this hurricane. That is an indication not just of the extremity of the system in terms of its ability to ingest very dynamically unstable air and shoot it upward to extremely high heights and therefore cold cloud tops. So here the temperature is essentially a proxy for how tall the cloud is. Once you start getting into the whites and pinks and purples, that's rarefied air, literally. That is very high, very cold cloud tops. That means that there's a concentric ring of cloud tops that are just extremely tall, ringing this hurricane. And usually the colder the cloud tops, the deeper the storm, the stronger the storm. So there's a couple of things going on here that I think are of interest. Many, many things. What we've got here is a storm that has been undergoing some changes over the last couple hours. So you can see the storm has been moving very slowly. So just keep in mind this box here of just a 1 by 1 by 1 degree latitude by longitude box. It's not moving very quickly, considering that's less than 200 miles on a side. So this is only about 100 by 100 by 100 mile wide box. It has been moving slowly, but not very much. And this is a loop over the past several hours. So it's over the course of several hours moved maybe 50 miles, if not less. So that's think of the miles per hour. 50 miles divided by 3 or 4 hours is not a very fast speed. That's some people could probably outrun the hurricane. Now the problem is, of course, if you were trying to outrun it, would be the 180 odd mile an hour winds you'd be running into. So you'd be literally blown away by winds of that extraordinary magnitude. So the last update, the Hurricane Center confirmed winds of at least 175 miles an hour sustained. That puts it well into Category 5. Again, the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Intensity Scale is a scale from 1 to 5, where 5 is the highest number. This is well beyond the upper limit. This is well beyond the minimum limit for a Category 5 out of 5. So this is a really monstrous storm, the upper end of the intensity scale, and it appears to have intensified even more since that last Hurricane Center update.
You are listening to Eco Justice Radio, a listener-supported media outlet. Please consider making a donation to ensure that we can continue to provide socially and environmentally driven content. Donations can be made at ecojusticeradio.org or SoCal350.org. For an extended version of this interview, as well as other benefits, we encourage you to become a member of our Patreon at Patreon/EcoJusticeRadio. Today you're listening to Hurricane Melissa, Jamaica's unprecedented storm, and its aftermath. I am your host, Jack Ite, and we feature on-the-ground reports from Jamaica by Jonathan Petramala and a discussion of climate science from Daniel Swain.
So clearly what happened is the water gets blocked here and it just starts rising and it's raging in and all the debris comes down and this is the relaxation.
Which channel is it?
YouTube.
YouTube?
Yeah, man.
Ah, YouTube.
Good to meet you.
All right, yeah.
Do you live here?
Yeah, I live here.
What was it like last night?
It was very terrifying. It was very terrifying. So a terrifying moment right through. I live up the road, Jerusalem, and listen, I was looking through the window, and it's so terrifying. Me have to go on my roof in the storm in a raincoat with my hammer and nail on my roof to save it.
So you had to you climbed up during the hurricane onto your roof to nail it down so it wouldn't blow away.
Yes, so it wouldn't blow away. And I see other people resident in my area, their roof lift off, church, everything. So there was a team of us out there trying to help other people also, because we've been through this before, and this is a similar situation.
I was talking to a guy, he's just right over here, Nathan, 72 years old. He says this is the worst.
Yeah, he lives in my area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
he says it's the worst one.
Yes, because I've lived close by him before, and it was a similar situation. We have to go on the roof and help other people.
So what about this storm was the worst in your opinion? Was it the wind or was it the rain?
The wind. I could see the wind go and pick up speed, and it was blowing east-west. It was going east-west. It was going this direction. East-west, right through. For like 4 to 5 hours. I stand at my window looking out. I get scared, as if scared as I ever been, and I am a brave man. And it's the scariest I ever been.
What made you feel that fear?
My roof. I didn't want to lose my roof, because losing my roof would cause me to find some other asylum, some places to stay, and I will lose my stuff inside my house.
Damien, what's up, man? It's Jonathan. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm on YouTube right now.
Oh, this storm is very crazy. My roof, it's gone. My lane is flooding out. That's Junko Lane, Wilton, St. Elizabeth. It's gone. It's flooding. It's pressuring right now. Right now, Jamaica is a disaster. Yeah, Jamaica is a disaster right now. So we just have to pray up for the best and the good. Help each one when we can help, and that's it.
Gregor was telling me that it was the worst storm for him. He was terrified. What about you?
Yeah, it's the worst storm in history.
Wait a second.
It's the worst storm in history. This is history for Jamaica. Everything, the hospital, the JPS public, that everything is crazy. As we have to do, help one another.
Hurricane Melissa is devastating, and its real impacts centered around the intense eye wall. That's why miles matter in hurricanes. So the closer you drive to where the storm made landfall and moved across Jamaica, the worse the damage. With only one main highway and covered for miles in downed trees and power lines or damaged by flash flooding, it appears very few government or military workers arrived or even brought proper equipment to clear the road.
Hey man, that's my job.
It was just average Jamaicans with machetes and their own chainsaws making that slow and grueling progress to the coast.
There's a guy with one leg and a chainsaw. It's the only highway to reach where Hurricane Melissa made landfall. And now there's a small army of people trying to clear the trees that are blocking the way to get to the survivors. Even men with one leg are operating chainsaws to try and get these trees out of the way as quickly as possible. We have not seen the worst of what Hurricane Melissa has brought to Jamaica yet because there's just no cell phone service, there's no internet there, there's no power, and so we haven't been able to get a glimpse through this wicked terrain, the mountains, the forests, of what this storm did. And that's why we really want to show what has happened so aid and help and volunteers can get here as quickly as possible. It's also a race against time to show the world what has happened here while the attention is still on Hurricane Melissa. So aid can come in from around the world to the people who need it most here.
Terrible. First we've experienced this type of storm, you know? First. Enough damage to do already still.
Where do you live?
Back in St. Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Further back up.
Well, are you trying to reach friends, family?
No, we have some bees out there. So we're going to go look on them, you know?
Make sure that your bees are okay?
Okay.
How do you feel about it?
Nervous. Nervous, honestly. But we get in there otherwise, you know?
Closer to the storm, more roofs gone, more lines down, and no communication. Sometimes the silence is the hardest thing to survive.
We haven't been able to communicate. That's the big thing. Communication is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, when it goes out...
Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to be for, though. That's the thing. The quicker the communication, the better. Even if you don't have electricity, communication would be easy, be much better.
What would you tell the outside about this? Because here's why I'm asking. Because there's no communication, I don't think people understand how bad it is down here.
Yeah. I think people overseas were more, our family over there was more worried about us than people here. It's just that it's not knowing. That's the big thing for them. I just wanted to let them know that we're all right, you know, and everybody's alive.
Over the mountains, through mud, washouts, chasing connections, chasing news. Here, the fear of what you don't know cuts deeper than what's already lost. Some walked for hours just to hear their mother's voice.
They have no roof. Everything inside is wet. Even my mom, I'm so sorry for her. I don't know how she's going to manage right now. You know, with me only right now for her. So I went down there and tried to help her fix some stuff. All her neighbors, everybody wrecked. I haven't ate anything all morning, the way how I'm concerned. And I'm going all the way back up. Because I've been up this morning from 6 walking. And I stay by my mom sometime. And now I'm going back, and I left out like what, 11:30 when I was walking out. Well, I came out the lane and it was 11:30. I'm like, all right, let me see how. And you know, it's an hour since I'm walking.
So over 3 hours to walk to mom, but anything's worth it for mom, huh?
Exactly. I just went there to make sure she's all right and tell her that tomorrow I'm gonna have to come back and I'm gonna see if I can get some nails and all of that, some zinc nail. Because she pick up some of the zinc, but they don't even make no sense. They won't be, you know.
Yeah.
They don't have any use anymore.
It had to be a big relief though that she was okay.
Yes, that's the only reason why I walked, because I know based on the wind, I know her roof wouldn't be safe. She got to run to her neighbor house. Luckily, her neighbor have a deck house. So right now, everything in her house is all wrecked.
we hear more from Daniel Swain's rundown of the issues around Hurricane Melissa and the state of the warming oceans and heating climate.
The other interesting thing that's going on is this hurricane has essentially moved for the past couple of days very slowly westward to its current position here. So from east to west to where it currently is. The storm is expected to make a sudden and abrupt turn almost immediately back toward Jamaica like this, moving onward towards southeastern Cuba. That is a projection. But what if the storm takes a slightly more westerly path? Maybe it drifts a little bit further before doing a hook. That's still not great for Jamaica, but it is perhaps a bit better for the most populated part of the country. Kingston, the capital and home to most of the people on the island, is in this part of the country. So in that sense, the farther west, the better. But the problem with that is that there is a substantial population in the western part of the country. Montego Bay is on the north side of the island here. And unfortunately, there's a lot of mountains across the interior of Jamaica in which there are numerous small towns that are extremely vulnerable both to the likely catastrophic flooding that is going to occur, as well as high-end tornado-strength winds that could blow down most, if not all, of the forest, the tropical rainforest in this region from the storm. And again, there are communities in there, so that's an extremely dangerous threat. So there aren't really any good options, because it does not appear, even if the storm ends up slightly further west than this forecast. Another interesting thing that's going on here, and a little bit alarming in fact, is that notice what's happened even since I've been talking in the 15 minutes since this live stream began. Look how much more pink there is at the end of the loop where this pauses briefly. So it's pausing at the end of the loop. What does that mean? Well, I was talking about earlier. It means that the cloud tops have gotten even taller, meaning that the storm is potentially trying to grow even stronger with more intense updrafts, more intense thunderstorms ringing the inner core. And just for some general terminology here, the central clear feature at the middle of the storm, that is called the eye. So in the middle of the eye, in a powerful hurricane like this one, the sky may even be clear. It is literally sunny with blue skies in the middle of this incredibly violent storm with winds that are starting to approach 200 miles an hour, one of the strongest storms on Earth. Clear skies in the middle of the eye. In the eye wall, though, which is the area immediately around the clear sky eye, in these concentric bands around the calm eye in the middle. So the term eye of the storm is, well, depending on who's using it, it's been misappropriated or very appropriate. If you refer to the eye of the storm to mean the calm at the center of the storm before you know that eventually the storm is going to pick up again almost immediately, so you have a temporary reprieve, that's the correct way to use the term eye of the storm, meteorologically speaking anyway. It's that it's a temporary, albeit ominous calm because you know what's about to happen next. After having already gone through one of the eye walls, you got to go through the next one. If the term is used to describe the most tumultuous part of an event in life or the storm, it's essentially a meteorological malapropism in the sense that it's not the correct term to describe violent storm conditions. So the eye is the calm part. But the eye wall, though, immediately surrounding it is the part of the storm that is most violent, and that is where the strongest winds are going to occur. One thing that is a small piece, modest piece of good news is that the extent of the hurricane force or the more violent winds like the Category 5, you hear about these 150, 170, 180 mile an hour winds with higher gusts, they're confined to a relatively small area in the storm. So once it makes landfall in Jamaica, if it makes landfall in western Jamaica, as appears quite likely, it is possible that Kingston doesn't even see hurricane-force winds. They're going to see tropical storm-force wind gusts, but not a big problem. But what they are going to see is 20 to 30 plus inches of rain, and that on its own could lead to a completely different catastrophe than the wind damage that we're talking about. The part of the mountainous interior closer to where the eye wall makes landfall could actually see 40 or 50 inches of rain, depending on how things go. That's, again, a really dire catastrophic flood threat. And the other thing is you can see all these pink and purple splotches sort of in these spiral bands spiraling into the storm. So these are actually cleverly called spiral bands because that's what they look. These are in fact feeding the storm. This is essentially the inflow to the storm, and each of these can be violent tropical rain squalls. So even over, again, I mentioned this is the Tiburon Peninsula in Haiti. This rain squall here, it's very far from the center of the hurricane, but it is associated with it. This could lead to dangerous flash flooding and mudslides in Haiti. In fact, there have already been some deaths reported in the Dominican Republic and Haiti from that, as well as in Jamaica. So there's spiral bands. There's an intensifying hurricane. You can see a clear eye and then a violent wind surrounding the eye wall. The other thing is, just qualitatively, look how quickly this thing is just spinning. To a certain extent, you can see how intense this storm is by the incredible radial velocity of this image. I mean, how often do you animate a satellite image and is it literally dizzying? It's mesmerizing and horrifying all at once. Okay, I'm going to quickly take a look at some comments. There's a question from Jose Gallardo about why there's no lightning despite being a very strong and convective tropical storm. I don't know where that impression has come from, but there's been a tremendous amount of lightning in this storm. In fact, there is often not lightning in hurricanes when they're weaker because the clouds are just too warm to get enough charge separation. However, in this case, this storm is so incredibly violent and putting cloud tops up to such incredibly great heights. I mentioned the tops of these clouds are at -80, -90 degrees Celsius, that there is enough charge separation, and there has been abundant lightning. In fact, there have been bursts of lightning coinciding with the most rapid bursts of intensification of the storm itself, which is something we often see. We have, this hurricane. Obviously, Jamaica's here, where it's going to be either probably Category 5 at landfall, maybe Category 4, but ultimately it really isn't going to matter, unfortunately. This is a really dangerous hurricane landfall either way. Then going to make another major hurricane landfall in eastern Cuba, probably a Category 3 storm landfall in Cuba after it does a bit of weakening over Jamaica's mountains. It will weaken a bit further as it accelerates out over the Bahamas, but this is still a strong Category 2 storm that will cause damage in the Bahamas, and then could it go on to affect Bermuda in a few days from now. Granted, more as a Category 1 storm, which Bermuda can probably weather pretty readily. Here is a topographical map of the island and nation of Jamaica, and I want to point out a few things here. I did have to brush up a little bit on my Jamaican geography. But Kingston, the capital and home to a majority of people who live on the island, is roughly here. So that is the capital city, and the greatest population density is generally in this part of the country. You may also notice that the highest mountains in the country are over here as well. These mountains are nearly 7,000 feet tall, so they are true mountains. There are some significant mountains as well in the interior of the island, though, in the central and western part of the island here as well. And unfortunately, this is the region that is likely to be devastated, or most devastated by this storm, because it's going to see Category 4 or 5 winds, as well as 20 to 40 inches of rainfall. Montego Bay is over here, which is one of the other island major population centers. This, again, based on a storm that is likely to take a trajectory across the island. So what this means is that the winds are going to blow upslope from the ocean up these mountains. And the wind gusts in these mountains, because of that, because they're several thousand feet tall, are likely to be even higher than the surface gusts. So when we have the hurricane hunting aircraft have been measuring wind speeds of essentially 200 miles an hour at above the surface of the ocean and in some gusts. Those are the kinds of gusts that are conceivable. If this hurricane does not weaken substantially, and it is not expected to, in some of the upper mountain areas, there could actually be gusts to around 200 miles an hour. That is a level of wind speed that even well-constructed buildings could potentially be destroyed, multi-story buildings that are well-constructed. So that's a real concern here, is that even with higher-level engineering construction standards, which most new buildings in Jamaica are actually built to, because this is an island with a long history of hurricanes, and Jamaicans know that they're going to see more of them in the future. that has been a consideration in building on the island. But the problem with 200-mile-an-hour wind gusts, which you could see at higher elevation points. Now, the only good news is that there's no major population centers up in the mountains, but there are a lot of small communities that could be devastated and, quite frankly, isolated for days or weeks to come. It is quite likely that the island's telecommunication and electrical infrastructure will be largely destroyed west of Kingston, and there will be major issues even in the capital region. But in this part of the island, which again is most of the island, not necessarily home to most of its population, but obviously most of the landmass and plenty of small towns and a couple of mid-sized cities. There is a city called Mandeville of about 50,000 up in the plateau region. This could ultimately be one of the largest population centers to see the strongest winds and heaviest rain, by the way, from this event. So that's a major concern here. This is not a good direction for a storm to be hitting the island from, because it means that the winds are going to be blowing up slope. So think of atmospheric rivers in California. What happens when those strong winds blowing moist air move up slope? Well, it's up slope by definition because you got to go from sea level here to the mountains here. This is why there's going to be so much concern over flooding. These mountains are going to intercept massive volumes of rain, and also the high mountains down here will. Even though the storm's going to be over here, there's still going to likely be 20 or 30 inches of additional rainfall over here. The slopes are very steep. The slopes above the Kingston capital region itself are steep as well. Catastrophic and widespread flooding and mudslides possible over the entire island, as well as Haiti to the east and then Cuba eventually.
You are listening to Eco-Justice Radio, a listener-supported media outlet. Please consider making a donation to ensure that we can continue to provide socially and environmentally driven content. Donations can be made at ecojusticeradio.org or SoCal350.org for an extended version of this interview, as well as other benefits. We encourage you to become a member of our Patreon at Patreon/EcoJusticeRadio. Today you're listening to Hurricane Melissa, Jamaica's unprecedented storm, and its aftermath. I am your host, Jack Ite, and we feature on-the-ground reports from Jamaica by Jonathan Petramala and a discussion of climate science from Daniel Swain.
It's a horrifying experience. I don't think we can't even describe it fully.
The building itself started to shake like it was an earthquake. At one time we couldn't see anything outside. We were wondering if it's a tsunami out there.
We gave up. Basically, you have nowhere to hide, and it's all gone.
And so everything just started to fly away?
This roof was gone.
Everything gone. Everything. That's my baby. I have to run out with my baby.
So
nothing.
You carried him?
In my hand.
So you're telling me you stood on top of this, on this toilet?
I was saved by a toilet.
We're still hoping. We thought the rescue team will be like yesterday, soon, like it's been 2 days.
Yeah. This is the worst thing Jamaica ever woke up in.
It's as bad as we feared, but we just weren't able to see because of the lack of communication. But finally, with the road open, we have arrived here in Black River. This is as bad of damage as you're ever going to find in any hurricane, from Dorian, Michael, Beryl, you name it. This is catastrophic. Every direction, everywhere you walk, everywhere you look, nothing is the same.
When a disaster reaches this scale, the destruction speaks for itself. Roofs are gone, walls torn apart, lives are upended. But that's not the story. The story is what's left standing and who. They made it through the wind, the surge, but the aftermath, that's a different kind of storm. It's the hard part, surviving what's left. Even the last place of refuge, the Black River Hospital, lies in ruins.
I think everything you're saying has been demolished. Yeah. What wasn't demolished?
The only thing that has been spared for the most has been the emergency room. Just the downstairs section, because I said the admin block is upstairs. Everything else has gone. Every single thing.
Along the coast, the hospital stood like a last defense. A 10-foot seawall meant to keep the sea out. But Melissa came higher, stronger. Roofs peeled away in winds pushing 185 miles an hour. And still the staff stayed, moving patients through the wreckage, steady voices in the storm. The calm in a place built for healing, not surviving.
And the wind kept blowing and would never stop. It comes from that direction and it blows back to that direction. It was total madness. Yeah, we were scared, but what to do? We had patients here. We have so many things here to protect. We couldn't just run and leave everything here.
How did everybody survive?
God. Some persons came in the vehicle and were outside, windows are shattered and they have to stay there until it calms down to come inside. How we survive as a team. We just stay calm, move persons to where they're supposed to go to safety, and we just kept everything in line and work with the procedures what Machan told us to do, and that is just it. We sweep water, we just kept pushing out the water from the building so that the water don't raise. Yes, that's what we did. We had a tough task because the building itself started to shake like it was an earthquake. At one time we couldn't see anything outside. We were wondering if it's a tsunami out there. Outside was just crazy.
So how do you stay calm? Because you have to stay calm for all these patients.
We prayed. We came together as a group and we talked about it and what to do, because we weren't mentally prepared, but because we don't want anyone to get nervous, we had to stay strong for them.
So again, everything here is destroyed, damaged, it's gone. They're using a car to patch up and bandage up an injury. Now that's one thing that the hospital here in Black River says has not come quite yet, because there are so many roads that are blocked. It's so difficult to get here. They know that in the community, in this parish, in the surrounding area, that there are going to be a lot of injuries, but they just haven't been able to make it into the hospital yet to get treatment. And so they're preparing the best they can, but they have nothing here. And by nothing, I mean no food, no water, no electricity. This is the generator that went out. All the electrical components that the generator needs to energize the hospital was destroyed. This was the backup plan. This was what was going to run the electricity and the water that they expected to have at least 72 hours of fresh water. But at this point they have no hours of fresh water, and it's 2 days on past the hurricane. So the desperation continues to raise with every hour that passes. Now, they do have helicopters flying in right across the street from the hospital. They're bringing supplies to here in Black River, and then they're taking patients away to Mandeville. But this is such a critical hospital for this area. It's, according to administrators here, around 180,000 people or so that they manage and assist in this whole area, in this region, the third largest in the country of Jamaica. And it is crippled from the force of Hurricane Melissa that blew on shore right over the top of this hospital, taking with it all the roofs, destroying the seawall, bringing water in, and now the staff is doing what good hospital staffs do, making it work, making miracles happen.
Hopefully at some point in time we can get a field hospital set up somewhere, because bear in mind, there are persons out there sick, injured, and so forth that will need our care. What are we going to do?
Have you guys had influx yet, or is it still too soon?
We've had a few, because we just had a lady who came with a fractured femur just a while ago. So we've been having a steady flow, not as much, but remember the roads are blocked. Right? Even one of our nurses, this nurse here, she walked from her district, which is several miles away, and she said there are bodies out there. Bodies, right? And people that are sick, injured, and so forth, and that's all the way several miles, probably about 15, 20 miles away. But because of the terrain that you have to traverse to get there, difficult.
Yeah. So while you haven't received like an overwhelming number of people, you're expecting that there will be at some point?
At some point when the roads are properly cleared.
Yeah, and I remember what comes after disasters like this. The infectious diseases, the respiratory illnesses, right? Remember, mosquitoes are going to start bringing dengue and all of these things, the leptospirosis. So you're going to have an overwhelming variety of patients,
People in Black River started taking survival into their own hands. Supermarkets and shops stripped of anything not bolted down. Call it looting, call it survival. It depends on how hungry you are. As desperation grows, so does the fear. These are medical students from India, stranded, living in the wreckage of their school. No staff, no guidance, just kids trying to get home.
This is where we are
So before, during the day, after the storm, it was full of mud and clay. And
so we came back and we cleaned everything
all the thing broken. We came back, we work as a family. We just cleaned everything. We just used the blind to close it. There's like no door for here. And we just took the cylinder from my house outside. So we are just using it for now.
Yeah, so you have some cooking gas.
Yeah, like it's gonna end. Like I found somewhere near my house, so I just carried on my shoulder.
Right now we're using the ones with the wooden.
Yeah, we are
put a
outside.
small.
We are just collecting all the woods, that's the debris, collecting together, using the rubbing alcohol to burn it. So yeah.
So you're using the rubbing alcohol to ignite the. Yeah. Wow. Is this it? Is this all your water? Are you guys okay? Do you feel scared, or you guys are like?
We are scared because right now people are looking for resources to eat and drink water.
Now
so we have anything for us. So at night it's completely dark. So we are afraid of people coming in or trespassing.
From Black River to New Hope, the same fear, the same uncertainty. No one has a home anymore. Not like before Melissa.
It's the only part that's safe is the concrete part. Those part it was concrete, so.
Yeah.
So everything gone. What can we do? Nothing. We can't do nothing about it.
Look, I just have to cry every time I come down. That's why I just stay up there because everything is gone. I remember having to lift my kids, my grandmother through here. The breeze, the wind, it fall down on me trying to get them to, every time we come out, we just
I didn't expect that. 2 days of documenting the worst destruction a hurricane can bring, and those were the first tears. Everyone has a breaking point. The lucky ones still have part of a roof. Most barely have 4 walls.
So this is the conditions now.
Yeah, this is the condition. I have nothing. See the roof, no good.
Yeah, I mean there's holes. Has it rained yet?
Yeah, this morning it's rain, and I have to took these things and put them up, and then the baby didn't want to sleep, so I have to put on this piece of mattress, but not dry so good. So.
Yeah. How are you? You okay? Yeah. Yeah.
But Jamaicans are resilient. You see it in the way they survive on what's left. Fruit from the trees, fish from the sea.
It's a mackerel, but it has been corned. Salt to preserve.
Waiting for the outside world to bring a little sanity back. You'll ask, how can I help? Who can I trust? I can't tell you who's going to be doing the most good, only who's reached out to me directly about what's really happening here. Those are World Central Kitchen, Samaritan's Purse, Food for the Poor, Global Empowerment Mission. Do your own research. Give where you believe your help will reach the people who need it the most. Ask anyone in Jamaica. Hurricane Melissa is the biggest disaster in living memory.
You have water.
But after what I've seen, it's still not bigger than what can happen when people work together.
That was from Jonathan Petramala. We hear more from Daniel Swain's rundown of the issues around Hurricane Melissa and the state of the warming oceans and heating climate.
As some folks have pointed out, the people in the hurricane hunting aircraft are not getting paid because the government is shut down, but they are considered, and I think rightfully, essential workers. But because of the DOJ-related firings from earlier in the year, the hurricane hunting staff is down in the NOAA branch, AMOL in Florida, that essentially is coordinating these, is down by 40 to 50% staffing, so they've been desperate. I'm hearing through sources who wish to remain anonymous that they are desperately calling up the personal landline phone number from retirees from the hurricane hunting program and former meteorologists who are coordinating and in some cases going on these flights. So imagine telling somebody that they need to come out of retirement to hop on to one of these aircraft to fly directly into one of the strongest storms ever observed in the Atlantic Basin. And oh, by the way, we're not going to pay anybody anything because the government is shut down indefinitely. This is a problem throughout the federal workforce, of course, where the vast majority of the federal workforce is currently furloughed without pay, meaning they're not allowed to work. But the people who are working without pay and without a break and with increasing workforce attenuation. So not only are people working for no pay, and almost everybody in the federal government has now missed at least one paycheck, but these are people who are literally flying into the most dangerous storms on Earth in the middle of the night Last night, earlier today, I guess it was, one of the hurricane aircraft missions was aborted early because the turbulence was so extreme that they were concerned about the structural integrity of the aircraft and obviously, therefore, the safety of the people on board. So, understandably, that particular mission was just considered to be too dangerous. And again, these are not folks who are at all going to say no to a challenge, even under pretty extreme situation. They're quite used to G-forces in the updrafts and downdrafts that would make even the most seasoned commercial air pilots queasy. Certainly the typical passenger. There are, of course, a fair number of retired Air Force folks who are not retired, or former Air Force folks who work in commercial air travel these days as pilots. They might have had some experience with this from the old days. But even here, I mean, even if you're flying a fighter jet or something, you're generally not trying to fly into the most violent updrafts you can find on Earth, as these aircraft are. And it is dangerous. They have a good track record of safety for many decades. If you read Dr. Jeff Masters' book or watch his any of the interviews he's done on this, there was one hurricane hunting escapade, let's call it, in Hurricane Hugo some years ago, where they did come fairly close to losing an aircraft due to the violent updrafts. They were not quite sure how they were going to make it out of the center of the storm. A partially disabled aircraft, they were able to make it into the eye and start orbiting it, but they didn't have enough engine power to go up and over, and they realized that they were going to have to go right back through the eye wall with an aircraft that was not fully functional. Harrowing story. They did all obviously make it out, but last night there was an incident where one of the aircraft had to abort the mission because they were concerned that something like that could happen again. Fortunately, it did not, but it's just an indication that this is public sector work that is very much in the public interest, very much essential work, where folks are doing something that is objectively dangerous and they're not getting paid at all right now. So just for some perspective on some of the real world impacts of both the shutdown, which as it drags on indefinitely, but also the broader workforce attenuation we're seeing through DOGE, through forced or coerced early retirements, things like that. I do have one other thing to add to that a little bit later, but I just did want to point that out because I do think it's an important consideration here, and it has been the case, whether or not the NOAA PR folks are going to admit it right now. I am hearing from internally that they are having significant difficulty staffing these kinds of missions right now because a lot of the people who would be on them were fired or forced into retirement earlier this year, and so they are literally calling people at their retirement addresses, their personal phone lines during a shutdown, and asking them to come in and help with the situation. That is what I'm hearing. Anyway, I'm not a journalist, so unfortunately I can't validate all those claims in real time, but based on everything else that's gone on recently, I have no reason to doubt those kinds of anecdotes right now. And I will point out that it was specifically something that was mentioned as a concern prior to hurricane season with the destaffing of these agencies, that precisely that might happen. Now it's happening, by the way. All right. There's a question, how much of an impact can this hurricane have on a warmer climate? Well, it's an interesting question of the effect that a hurricane would have on climate. Generally, any one storm isn't going to affect climate so much, although in general, tropical cyclones, hurricanes included, are a great way for the Earth to redistribute heat and energy. So hurricanes are essentially a way of drawing lots of accumulated stored energy, including the additional accumulation of stored energy in the oceans due to climate warming or global warming over time, and draw it out of the ocean, put it into the atmosphere, and then move it toward the poles. So hurricanes are heat engines, essentially, quite literally, in fact, heat engines that draw energy, their energy from warm oceans and then redistribute that energy poleward in the atmosphere. So they are, as you might expect, increasingly capable engines as the climate gets warmer. We are seeing quite a number of rapidly intensifying and overall very intense hurricanes in recent years. In fact, There have only been 5 hurricanes in the Atlantic this year, which is actually a fairly low number. But 4 of the 5 of them have reached at least Category 4 out of 5 status. I think that's the highest ratio of hurricanes attaining that extremely high level of intensity that we've ever seen. It's a remarkable number. And what it means is that even if we aren't seeing more hurricanes, the odds that a hurricane that does develop goes to reach these upper echelons of extreme Category 3, 4, 5 intensity is increasing. We see that all throughout the world, and we see that in the Atlantic Basin in particular. So the clearest signal between a warming climate and hurricanes is A, with more extreme tropical rainfall and worse flooding. We've seen that unambiguously case after case after case. B, with higher storm surges than you would have seen otherwise, simply because, well, as sea levels rise, the storm surge magnitude can increase, even if the storms themselves don't change. And then number 3, yes, we are seeing more intense hurricanes, not more hurricanes. We are not, so far as I can tell, we're not seeing more hurricanes. And we're also not seeing more hurricanes this year. This year has been a below average number of hurricanes in the Atlantic Basin. However, the ones that have occurred have broken records for their exceptional intensity, and that is not a coincidence. It is because the atmospheric conditions for initial development of hurricanes have been kind of unfavorable, but the oceans have been so damn warm that whenever there is an occasional condition where the atmosphere becomes a bit more favorable, they take off like gangbusters, and they attain these exceptional levels of intensity. So this is another you could call it another whiplash process in a warming world, by the way, hurricane intensity whiplash, where we might see about the same number or perhaps even fewer global hurricanes overall, but the ones that do occur are already becoming more intense, producing stronger winds, lower pressures, heavier rainfall, everything that we would not want to see with a hurricane. And Melissa is an example of a hurricane that has taken advantage of near-record warm ocean water. And again, warm ocean water is hurricane fuel. It is the primary source for the energy that hurricanes become the heat engines to dissipate. So to argue that warming oceans don't affect hurricane intensity just defies basic physics. It really is something you just can't get around. It's a fundamental thermodynamic reality. It does not necessarily mean that there are more hurricanes. And don't be fooled by folks who claim that the lack of an increase in the number of hurricanes or the number of hurricane landfalls is a number that is misleading, because what we really care about are how many hurricanes are achieving this extreme intensity, because we know that the higher the intensity of the storm or the more the rain it can produce through heavier rainfall, more water, more flooding, the more destructive potential it has. That's all I'll get to in the global warming side of things today.
Hey listeners, to check out the extended recording of this show or to explore our other shows, visit our website, ecojusticeradio.org, and subscribe to our podcast. This has been Eco Justice Radio and our show, Hurricane Melissa, Jamaica's Unprecedented Storm and Its Aftermath. Thank you to Jonathan Petramala, Dr. Michael Mann, and Dr. Daniel Swain. And thank you to our listeners for joining us. Please connect with us on social media at Eco Justice Radio, SoCal350, and Adventures in Waste. If you like what you have heard and you want others to be informed, you know what to do. Subscribe and share the episodes. Project of SoCal 350. The show can be found on KPFK, KPFT, and all major podcast apps, and at ecojusticeradio.org. Executive producer is myself, Jack Eit. Co-host Carrie Kim, and engineer and original music by Blake Quake Beats. And until next time, remember, the power is yours.